Can you walk us through how design automation is changing how engineers deliver projects, even though automation is not a new concept?
I think it all starts with process, and we have an engineering center of excellence at Alteg that's fantastic at kind of laying that out. But once you're through that work, then to me the next step is which process steps take the longest and which can we actually automate, right? In our case, a lot of it is just good, rigorous, solid work, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not magic other than, hey, we're going to be really deliberate about being clear on what data do we need to solve this problem. Like, what are all the inputs, right, that we need in order to go and start this project with this?
Automation is rapidly changing how engineering work gets done, yet many firms are still figuring out how to apply it in real project environments. Design automation in particular has the potential to speed up project delivery and reduce costs, but adopting it often requires rethinking long-standing engineering workflows. In this episode, I'm excited to be joined by Bryan Gess, Chief Digital Officer at Alteg. We will talk about how design automation is reshaping engineering workflows, how ideas from product-driven industries and agile practices can improve engineering services, and the cultural shifts firms must navigate when adopting AI and automation. If you're looking to better understand how digital strategy and automation can help your firm deliver projects more efficiently and stay competitive in a ever-evolving infrastructure market, this episode is for you. But before we jump into the episode, I wanted to take a moment to tell you about a series of in-person events we created at EMI called AEC PM Connect. These events are designed to bring together AEC project managers and the leaders responsible for developing them. If you're looking to stay on top of current project management trends, elevate your team's performance, lead with greater purpose, and deliver stronger project outcomes, AEC PM Connect is built for you. Held in multiple locations each year, these full-day events focus on real-world strategies for improving project delivery in the AEC industry and building more consistent, effective project management within your organization. To learn more and register, visit aecpmconnect.com, and I hope to see you in person. With that, let's jump into today's episode. It's now time for our conversation of the week with Bryan Gess. Bryan, thank you so much for taking the time to join the show today, and welcome.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, Nick.
Absolutely. So, we had a nice quick chat prior to hitting record here, so I'm excited to just jump right into it with our first question, which will be some background for our audience here. Bryan, what initially drew you into digital strategy, and how did that path eventually lead you into the infrastructure and AEC space?
Yeah, it's interesting. I started my career in consulting and then started to move to larger companies building digital products, ultimately for consumers. And I've been doing that a long time. And when I look at where our infrastructure build out is today in the United States, kind of this confluence of, 60 years of not doing too much to build it out. At the same time, we have kind of this compression of data centers needing more and more electrons to flow. It's a super now energized and exciting space that was ripe for leveraging really, product mindset, leveraging some of the skills that I built over the years to help our engineers do things better. And we ought to build capabilities and tools for engineers that are just as easy to use and as helpful as those are for consumers. And so that's what kind of drew me in, was kind of this ripe market, right time, and the fact that Alteg really saw that some of the skills I built over the years would be really applicable and needed to help drive us into the future.
Which is cool because you're taking, that outsider's perspective, right? You said your background's in AE, which is still very applicable, like, to the industry, even though that may not have been where you started originally.
Yeah. It's kind of been fun to get back to my roots, right? So you study electrical engineering in college, and I spent a bunch of time building software and products, but to get back to the basics and look at wiring diagrams and how do I automate those, it's kind of been fun.
Yeah, and that's, speaking of automation, right? Like, when you look at the AEC industry today, what role does digital strategy play in helping firms stay competitive as not just another expense, but as an investment? And then, of course, technology adoption, acceleration, et cetera.
Yeah, I think it's huge. I think we all are sitting at a precipice of tremendous amount of change. Obviously, there's ends of the spectrum where AI is both being incredibly helpful and also very confusing. But I think we all suspect that this continued march forward will be forward for sure. And so the way I see digital strategy really working is, our business has been to serve our customers, our clients, with really sound, good quality designs that are constructible, buildable, and that, stand the test of time. And where digital comes in is the pace at which the industry is going, the pace at which our clients and customers need to build is just unfathomable. And I think even when you look at what the expectation of, the hyperscalers out there, they want things done at a pace and speed that is breakneck. And so digital comes into play as really one of the only ways that you can accelerate and try to meet some of those expectations while still having the human in the loop, while still having your engineers make the smart design decisions along the way. It really becomes one of the only ways that you can do it. So I think it's critical to the future.
And I know, you made some great points there because, right, your average client is not going to be like that hyperscaler. But that actually draws me back to your background, and I'm kind of curious to see how the two relate. So how do you guys apply ideas from product-driven industries, right? Like where you kind of started your career. So where teams are building, consumer-focused products, but applying that to what you guys do today on the engineering side.
Yeah, no, it's great. I think the way I think about it is I think about, we have two tiers of customers. My team has two tiers of customers. We have our internal teams, who are our engineers, and then obviously the clients that they serve. And so when we take a product mindset, first thing is a product is intended to last forever. We want to build things that last forever. Projects have starts and ends. And so a lot of times, you'll see folks, hey, well, we're going to start this project, or I have an idea on an innovation. They build the innovation, it works, and then that's kind of it. So by taking a product mindset, we're deliberately saying, hey, we've done the analysis. We've looked at where our company is growing, where we can automate, where we can drive value. And we've determined, hey, that this is something that we want to do that's going to be long lasting, and that we're going to continue to invest in over time and not stop until we've kind of delivered it. And then by being super clear on who our customer is initially, which is our engineers, we build everything in 2-week sprints. So we give them product that they can taste and feel and use and give us immediate feedback. And it's new. It's new for this team. It's new for this space to have that level of rigor. And sometimes, they're like, hey, slow down. Like, hang on. We didn't get a chance to look at the last one. And I think that's the fun of it, is building products that'll help our folks design better, quicker, faster with high quality is really the name of the game.
And you brought up some very interesting points, because that's not how engineering firms are traditionally set up with that mindset. So, I mean, you've obviously learned a lot in your time on, outside of our industry, and it seems to be helping you guys out.
Yeah, it's huge, right? And I think the software startups and SaaS providers have kind of perfected this over the years of, how do we have clarity of who our customer is and their needs? How do we have metrics that are constantly coming back in as a feedback loop to understand how do we continuously improve? And so those concepts, that have worked tried and true, and products that we use on our phone or use on our laptops and iPads, et cetera, we're just used to it, right? We're used to kind of seeing it change and evolve, and we just roll with it. And if it's done well, it's seamless, and you're like, oh, wow, that new feature is there, and it's so cool, and I didn't even know it was coming, but that's great. And so it's that inspiration, right, that ultimately hopefully delights the engineers and makes their day better.
And speaking of, right, so software and then engineering, right, developers, not a physical world. As you know, Agile, common framework used in the software space. So for the audience, could you just explain what Agile is, and then explain how that might be implemented inside a traditional engineering organization?
Yeah. Agile comes in a lot of different flavors. I think the way that I most often really see it working well is really setting a series of disciplines where you build a backlog of scope, right? Hey, these are all the features that I want to enable over time. You spend time grooming that backlog and ultimately deciding, hey, within a given sprint, which is simply like a chunk of time. For us, we do 2-week sprints. So within the next 2 weeks, here's all the work that we plan to do. Then teams go through that backlog and build the software and test the software so that at the end of those 2 sprints, we actually demo it, actually show our progress, get feedback on the progress. And then probably the most important ingredient is there's a retrospective. After 2 weeks, how did we do? What went well? What didn't go well? How do we want to tweak this going forward? And so you have this virtuous cycle of work coming in, teams executing on that work, teams assessing how did they perform, so that what you can start to see using Agile, right, is that over time the team gets better and better and better. And with that, the product gets better and better. So as we look at, across our team using this methodology, we can now look back 5 sprints, which is like 10 weeks, right? And we can say, oh, look at what we used to look like. Hey, we used to plan and we get this much work done and we only got a third of it. And now we're planning twice as much work as we used to plan for and hitting that each sprint. So that's the fun of it versus a traditional, waterfall process where I'm going to hear all the requirements that I need to build this system and capability. I'm going to do my best to understand them and interpret them. I'm going to go into a hole with the developers and we're going to build them and we're going to come up for air months later and show you something. And you may say, hey, that has nothing to do with what I actually asked you to do, right? And so this is all about reducing that cycle time, and so that you only have a 2-week gap of, whoops, that wasn't quite what we needed, and you can self-correct it, get after it.
And you're like you said, the product improves, the team improves, but at a clip that, again, maybe isn't as common in our industry just due to the cycle of how we work. Waterfall is very common way of working in engineering firms. But speaking of speed, right, everybody's favorite topic, artificial intelligence. So it allows you to do more and faster. Whether it's better or not depends on a couple of things. So, Bryan, when firms are adopting technologies like artificial intelligence, what culture or behavioral shifts usually determine whether those initiatives succeed? And then just tell us more, like in your mind, what does success look like?
Yeah, AI is tricky, right? And so I think what, as I look at it, I really kind of try to break it into 2 parts, which is if we've determined that there's a tremendous amount of productivity that we can drive within our business, I want us to focus on making those improvements with big bets, right? Let's get a team, let's swarm it, let's make that happen. And if AI can help us along that journey, we're absolutely going to use it. Where we're seeing ourselves using it is quality assurance, quality control, keeping human in the loop. Where we're seeing it is in code development and accelerating code. I'm sure others are using it in that way, but ultimately, the code still needs to live in a bigger environment. It still needs to be deployed. It still needs to kind of follow all the rules that you have as a company and within your infrastructure. And so oftentimes that's where it falls short, and you still need to kind of get in there and make it happen. So these big bets, I think AI fits in, and it's a piece and it's part of the puzzle. I think where it gets interesting is on the other side, which is this is a new technology for all of us.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a wave that's coming. And how do we help everyone along the way with their own journey? Because it works differently than anything we've ever worked with in the past, right? And so the philosophy and strategy we've taken is really one of, okay, let's really lift all boats. Let's really make sure everyone within the company has access to an AI tool, right? That we use, and then let's teach them how to use it. Let's give them training. Let's make it real for them. And then we've also taken on the task of going out to, team on sites and spending time in the trenches with folks. And sometimes it's the first time that people might be opening up Copilot, and actually using it because they were like, that's not for me. And so those eureka moments were like, okay, there's some places where this can help me. And really being frank and open about ensuring that we still have the humanity baked in, right? That we haven't just turned this into like emails that clearly sound like they were written by someone else, and that's not Bryan anymore, that's not Nick anymore. And so that's kind of been the balance for us, is let's find the bespoke spots where it really matters, like where we can inject AI because we know we're driving a business outcome, and make it testable, repeatable, and then recognize that this is a culture shift that, at least for us right now, is all about let's get everybody used to using the tool, right? Just like I remember, I've been doing this a long time. I remember when Office, came out, and you're like, how do I use Excel, right? And people would take classes on Excel, and I'm never going to use that, which, it kind of dates me a little bit, Nick. But I think, right, there's, in many ways, like we're at this turning point where AI is really, it's a new way of thinking, and it's a new way to doing work. And I think we just need to bring everybody along that, hey, it's helpful, and we got to find the right place for it.
Yeah. And, that was really well said, Bryan. A couple of points here. So I'm looking at my bookshelf over here. And you said The Coming Wave, which, for anybody listening, excellent book, literally titled The Coming Wave. Mustafa Suleyman, co-founder of DeepMind at Google. Excellent read, no matter where you are in your AI journey. Highly recommend. To your point about, right, like your code base, merging code in that might have been developed in tandem with AI. There's a reason that software developers are professionals, right? They have jobs. There is no silver bullet. And three, and just making it accessible to everyone. So that's what I got out of that. I just thought you stated all of that really well, Bryan. So thank you for that.
Strong project outcomes need skilled managers and competent leaders. EMI's corporate training delivers expert-led courses in project management and people leadership, plus industry-recognized certification and exclusive premium content to take your team even further. Elevate your team's leadership capabilities today. Visit engineeringmanagementinstitute.org and click on corporate training.
Now, so let's talk automation, because I think when people think, right, innovation, technology, maybe it goes to AI, but automation has been around for a long time.
Yep.
So can you walk us through how design automation is changing how engineers deliver projects, even though automation is not a new concept?
Yeah. And I think it goes back to the basics, right? Automation goes back to lean engineering. It goes back to understanding what is your current process and how do you make your process ultimately as effective as possible, as a starting point, right? And I think any firms out there doing work across clients, sometimes the clients dictate process that we need to follow. And so how do we marry what might be a process that might be most efficient for us as a firm versus kind of how do we meet standards of the client? And so I think it all starts with process. And we have an engineering center of excellence at Alteg that's fantastic at kind of laying that out. But once you're through that work, then to me, the next step is which process steps take the longest and which can we actually automate, right? And that's, in our case, a lot of it is just good, rigorous, solid work, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not magic. Other than, hey, we're going to be really deliberate about being clear on what data do we need to solve this problem. Like, what are all the inputs, right, that we need in order to go and start this project with this client? Let's make sure that those inputs are right there at the beginning. And then to the extent that we can visualize a design very, very quickly that might be only a 30% view and may not be at a fidelity that you would need, and do it, so what we're doing is we're building some custom tools that allow you to see very, very quickly, hey, here are the standards for this client. Here are the standards that we want to bake into this design. Let me tweak some of the design, and it moves very, very quickly before we're ever in a CAD tool, before we're ever like in the very, very detailed pieces. That gives us the speed so that then you get it as close as you can to finish. And now what we've done is we've automated that specification being loaded into a really complex CAD tool that brings it in with the absolute fidelity you need to then go and build it. So that's the fun for us. That's how we go ahead and automate. Is we start with process. We do the hard work to figure out which steps are most important to automate.
Or even
That's kind of
or even eliminate, right? Like,
or eliminate.
That's certainly part of it. And we always say over here, so people, process, and technology in that order, which is essentially what we've talked about, right? Like, right people, right seats, right? From developers to the layperson, getting your processes correct before you even talk about technology, because those first two layers really drive the success of the third.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think you guys have got a nice setup there, because you obviously understand how to get from A to B successfully.
Yeah, and culture is, people, you start with people, right? Culture is so important it's kind of the lifeblood of our company. It's what we believe makes us great, is that we look out for each other, we hold each other up. You can count on the team to be there, and we do that in service of our client. But we're also trying to move people into a new way of working all at the same time. And so we're affecting that culture, and we're in ways that are, that we need to continue to be clear on the why. We need to be clear on, how are we going to help you get there? And so it's not it is the starting point and it is the ending point, right? Because you got to do it all through people.
Absolutely. It all runs through people, particularly in industries like ours that are that don't exist entirely behind a computer, right? So people have always been in this industry, and it looks like they're here to stay. But Bryan, I just wanted to say thank you again so much for taking the time to join the show. I know we had discussed this earlier, and I think hopefully as we went along the journey here in questions that maybe something stuck out to you. If firm leaders could start with just one thing to strengthen project outcomes today, where do you recommend they start?
I think it all starts with the customer. I think it all starts with understanding their needs, what makes their business successful, where are they challenged, and then how do you organize your firm and your outcome all to kind of serve their final outcome, right? And I think that North Star will never steer you wrong.
Really well said. And like we literally just talked about, right? All just starts with people.
Yep.
Excellent. So Bryan, thank you again so much for taking the time to join us today. If the audience wants to connect with you, learn anything more about what we spoke on today, what's the best way for them to reach you?
Yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn, Bgess, BGESS on LinkedIn. Go ahead and ping me there. That's probably the best place.
Excellent. Bryan, thank you again so much. We really appreciate you coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks so much, Nick. It was a pleasure.
Yes, sir. Until next time. Please remember, you can find the show notes for this episode at aectechpodcast.com. There, you'll find a summary of the key points discussed in today's episode, as well as links to any of the resources, websites, or books mentioned during this episode. Until next time, I wish you the best in all your engineering and technology endeavors.